He didn't ask questions. He made assumptions. But when she said, "I'm calling the Pentagon," the look on his face said everything. The sky was overcast that morning, not raining, just gray enough to dull the edges of the day. Colonel Rhonda Ellison had always liked it that way. No glare, no sweat, just quiet. She turned off the ignition of the black government SUV and looked up at her new home. 2 stories, brick front, simple porch, nothing fancy. Exactly what she wanted after 22 years of service. Rhonda stepped out, straightening the jacket of her Army service uniform. Her ribbons were aligned perfectly on her chest. She wore her nameplate, her branch insignia, her rank, full bird colonel. She had spoken at the Pentagon that morning about defense leadership and transitioning veterans. The applause still rang in her ears, but out here in Manassas Park, Virginia, all she wanted was to unpack and rest. She grabbed 2 boxes from the trunk, labeled books in black marker, and began walking toward the front steps. A neighbor across the street, an older man in khakis and a tucked-in polo, slowed his lawnmower and just stared. He didn't wave, didn't smile, just watched. Rhonda didn't flinch. She'd been in places far more hostile than suburban stairs. She set the boxes down on the porch and dug for her keys. That's when she heard the tires behind her, slow, crunching along the curb. She turned. A black and white police SUV was creeping to a stop just behind her parked vehicle. No lights, no siren, just watching. Rhonda squinted, tilting her head. The window rolled down. "Ma'am," the officer called out, "is this your vehicle?" She blinked. "Yes," she replied. "It's government issued. I'm just getting home." The officer didn't get out right away, just stared. Youngish guy, mid-30s maybe, pale skin, sharp jawline, short, buzzed hair, nameplate, Raid Brewster. His eyes were already scanning the plates, the uniform, the boxes. "You live here?" "Yes," she said calmly. "Just moved in last week. Is there a problem?" He stepped out, adjusting his belt. His hand rested near his holster, not on it, but close enough to send a message. "We got a call about suspicious activity," he said flatly. "A vehicle out front that didn't match the homeowner's registry." Rhonda raised an eyebrow. "I am the homeowner," she said, gesturing behind her. "Colonel Rhonda Ellison, U.S. Army. I just spoke at the Pentagon 3 hours ago." He didn't nod, didn't say thank you for your service, just took a few steps closer. "I'll need to see some ID." She placed the key in the front door but didn't turn it. Slowly, she turned back around, opened the flap of her breast pocket, and pulled out her military ID. He looked at it, then looked at her, then back at the ID. Still, something in his face didn't change. "You got anything with your current address on it?" he asked. Rhonda tilted her head. "I just moved in. I haven't updated my driver's license yet." Brewster frowned like he'd caught her in a lie. "You got any proof that you live here at all?" She sighed, the calm in her voice still holding. "The mortgage paperwork is inside. Would you like to come in?" "I'm gonna need you to stay right there for now." But the look in his eyes said he wasn't done. Not even close. Rhonda stood there, steady as ever, one hand resting on the box labeled books, the other near her waist. She wasn't scared. She was aware. It was a habit she'd honed over years deployed overseas and in Pentagon briefing rooms packed with egos louder than gunfire. But this was different. "I'm not refusing anything," she said. "I'm just standing on my porch, at my house." Officer Brewster took 2 more steps closer, the kind that were meant to be subtle but never are. He squinted like her uniform was some Halloween costume he didn't quite believe. "I'm gonna need to run the plates," he muttered, already turning back toward his cruiser. "They're federal," she called out. "You'll need special access." He didn't answer, just climbed back in, closed the door, and started typing on his onboard computer. Rhonda stood still, her mouth tightening. Across the street, the man with the lawnmower had stopped entirely, arms crossed, watching. Then the passenger door opened, and Brewster was back out again. He had his notepad now. "Let's try this again," he said. "You said your name was Colonel Ellison?" "Correct." "And this is your residence?" "For the 3rd time, yes." "You said you just moved in?" "Yes." "And you don't have anything that proves you live here?" "I told you I have mortgage paperwork inside the house, but nothing on you right now." Rhonda took a slow breath through her nose. "Officer, what is this really about?" Brewster stiffened, like she'd just accused him of something, which, in a way, she had. His face hardened. "Ma'am, I don't appreciate the tone. I'm doing my job." "No," she said, calm but firmer now. "You're going beyond your job. I'm in full uniform, standing on the porch of a house I bought with my own money, in a government-issued vehicle, holding a box of books. Nothing about this is suspicious." There was a long pause. He walked forward again, too close this time. "I've had people try to run scams like this before," he said, voice low, like he was trying to be intimidating. "Uniforms don't mean much if they're not real. I've seen it." "Officer, do you honestly believe someone's out here impersonating a colonel just to carry a box inside a house on a Saturday?" "I need you to stop with the attitude and answer the questions." She stared at him. "I answered your questions, all of them. You just didn't like the answers." There was a flicker in his eyes. Anger? Frustration? Or just the moment someone's pride starts to get bruised and they try to cover it with power? "I'm going to need you to stay right here," he said again. "Don't go in the house." "Is that an order?" "It's a lawful command." But Rhonda was about to find out just how far he was willing to go to prove he was in control. Rhonda didn't move. Her hand hovered near her key again. Not for defense, not to escalate, just to go inside her own home. "Officer Brewster," she said, voice level, "this is not a command post. You're not my superior. You're not in charge of this property. I'm going inside now." Brewster's body tensed like someone had snapped a string tight across his spine. "No, you're not," he snapped, stepping up onto the porch and putting himself square between her and the door. Rhonda didn't budge. "You're interfering with a federal employee's movement without cause." "I told you already," he said louder this time. "You're being detained until we verify you're telling the truth." "You haven't said I'm under arrest." "You're being detained." "What's the charge?" "Suspicion of trespassing." She looked down at her uniform, her badge, the keys in her hand. "Do you know how ridiculous that sounds?" "I said step back, ma'am." Then he did it. He reached for her arm. It wasn't violent, not yet, but his hand clamped onto her elbow in a way that didn't leave any room for doubt. He wanted control over her body, over the moment, over the space she owned. Rhonda pulled back instantly, voice raised, but still sharp and commanding. "Do not touch me. That's assault." "You're resisting," Brewster barked, reaching again. "I am not under arrest. You don't get to put your hands on me." Her voice cracked through the neighborhood like a warning shot. The man across the street stepped back. A curtain shifted in the window to her left. People were watching now. Phones might have been recording. She didn't care. Brewster reached for his radio. "Unit 214, I need backup at..." Rhonda cut him off. "I'm calling the Pentagon." He hesitated. "What?" She pulled her phone from the inside pocket of her uniform, the movement deliberate. Her hand didn't shake. Her voice didn't tremble. She scrolled down and hit the contact labeled OPS Direct. "You're going to want to stop whatever you think you're doing," she said, "because in about 30 seconds, someone much higher up the ladder is going to ask you why a colonel in uniform was being detained on her own porch." But Officer Brewster hadn't fully realized yet. The line she'd just dialed would change everything. Brewster stood frozen. His hand hovered near his belt, unsure now. Not afraid, but suddenly not so confident either. Rhonda held the phone to her ear. One ring, two, then... "Colonel Ellison, this is Captain Rollins. You all right, ma'am?" "Not exactly," she said calmly. "Local officer has detained me in front of my home. No charges, no reason. He doesn't believe I live here. I need this documented." There was a brief silence on the other end, then a tone shift. Military precise. "Understood. What's the officer's name?" "Brewster." "Location?" "Manassas Park, corner of Evergreen and St. John's." "Stay on the line." She didn't even have to say it. She already knew. Internal security protocols were kicking in. Someone was being notified. It wouldn't take long. Brewster blinked like he was finally processing that this wasn't a prank or a scam or some rookie with a fake badge. This was real. He took one step back, and for the first time, his voice dropped a decibel. "Who exactly were you calling?" She locked eyes with him. "The Department of Defense. You just touched a colonel in full uniform on her own property. You're already in someone's file." His radio crackled, static, then a voice, clear, firm. Unit 214, stand by. Confirm current location. Brewster raised the mic to his mouth. Evergreen and St. John's. Copy that. Be advised, the subject in question has been positively identified through federal verification. Colonel Rhonda Ellison, active duty, Pentagon verified. Do not engage further. His jaw clenched. Dispatch, I was just trying to confirm. 214, you are instructed to stand down immediately. Back up en route. Supervisors notified. Brewster's face turned a shade lighter. Rhonda didn't flinch. She stood tall, her phone still to her ear. Captain Rollins spoke again. He's still there? Yep. You want me to patch in a civilian liaison or let it ride? Let it ride. Copy. Keep the line open. You good? I'm fine. Just tired. She lowered her phone and finally looked back toward her front door. I'm going inside now, Officer Brewster. Unless you plan to tackle me? He didn't answer. She took the key, turned the lock, and opened her door, just like she'd planned to 15 minutes earlier. But the real moment of truth was still on its way, with flashing lights, higher ranks, and no room left to hide behind a badge. Rhonda placed the box of books just inside the door. She didn't close it behind her. Not yet. She wanted Officer Brewster to see exactly where she was, in her home. Not hiding, not running, not breaking a single law. From the edge of the porch, Brewster stood frozen, like he'd forgotten how legs worked. His hand had dropped completely away from his belt now. He looked around, at the neighbors watching from behind curtains, at the people on their porches, with phones in their hands. He looked like a man who'd just realized he wasn't the one in control anymore. Then came the sirens. No urgency, just steady. A second cruiser pulled up. This time the door opened fast. Out stepped a black woman in a dark blue uniform, her rank pins gleaming, her face unreadable. She walked with purpose, boots on pavement, not running, but not strolling either. Lieutenant Talley, she said, holding up her badge. Supervisor. Rhonda nodded. Colonel Rhonda Ellison. Talley's eyes flicked to Brewster. He opened his mouth to explain, but she raised one finger, silencing him. We'll get to you. Talley stepped up to Rhonda's door. Ma'am, may I come in for a moment? Please. Inside, Rhonda gestured toward a leather chair just inside the living room. Still half full of unpacked boxes, the house smelled like cardboard and pine sol. Thank you for keeping your cool, Talley said. I've been in worse situations with heavier consequences, Rhonda replied. Still, shouldn't happen on your porch. They sat for only a few minutes before Talley asked, May I speak freely? Go ahead. I've had complaints about Brewster already, none confirmed, mostly subtle things. But this is concrete. Your phone call? That might have just saved someone else the trouble. Rhonda leaned forward. What's going to happen to him? Talley sighed. That depends. Internal Affairs is coming. The Pentagon's already in contact with our chief. The city manager's probably going to hear about it before dinner time. Best case, he's benched, evaluated, reprimanded. Worst case, he's out of a job. Outside, Brewster was pacing now, staring down the street like he wanted to disappear into the trees. I don't want blood, Rhonda said. I want accountability. You'll get it. Talley stood. Would you like me to escort him off the property? Rhonda shook her head. Let him walk away on his own. He needs to feel that. Talley stepped back out into the daylight. Rhonda followed her to the door, arms folded. Officer Brewster, Talley called out. You are relieved of duty pending investigation. Surrender your weapon and badge. Right now. He looked like a man who had just had his air cut off. Wordlessly, he reached for his belt, handed both over. No speech, no resistance. Just silence. Then he turned and walked to his cruiser. He didn't get in, just stood there, waiting. Maybe for instructions, maybe for the reality to catch up. Rhonda stood on the porch, tall, still, watching. But the final part wasn't about Brewster. It was about the neighborhood and what came next. The next morning was quiet, not the kind that hides something, just still, peaceful. Rhonda sat on the porch steps with a cup of coffee in her hand, wearing an old army sweatshirt and sweatpants, hair tied back. No uniform today. She'd earned that. A woman walking a golden retriever passed by on the opposite sidewalk. She slowed down, looked over, and gave a hesitant wave. Rhonda nodded. Then came the man who'd been watching yesterday. Lawn still half mowed. He crossed the street slowly, hands in his jacket pockets. "I didn't know who you were," he said. "Yesterday, I saw everything." "You know now," Rhonda replied without looking up from her mug. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry that happened. It shouldn't have. I've lived here 23 years, and that was wrong." Rhonda finally looked at him. He was nervous, but not fake. She could see that much. "I'm not here to be anyone's lesson," she said. "I'm here to live, just like you." He nodded. "Well, if you ever need anything, tools, ladder, help with the gutters, just knock." He turned and walked back across the street. She watched him, not coldly, not warmly, just aware. A few hours later, a group of neighborhood kids rode by on bikes. One of them pointed at her and said, "My dad said you work at the Pentagon." Rhonda smiled. "I do." "Cool." They sped off. The world didn't stop spinning. That afternoon, she unpacked more boxes, hung a framed photo of her command unit on the living room wall, laid out her uniforms in the closet. And when the sun dropped low behind the trees, she stepped outside again, same porch, same seat. This time, more neighbors waved, not everyone, but enough. It wasn't about the uniform anymore. It was about being seen and being respected. She thought about Brewster, about what might happen next in his career, or not. She didn't feel sorry for him. She felt sorry for how long it took him to learn what kind of world he really lived in, because some people only understand respect when it comes from a uniform, and not the person wearing it. But respect, real respect, that starts when you stop needing proof someone deserves it. Life doesn't always give you the choice between confrontation and peace. Sometimes you have to go through one to get to the other, and sometimes all it takes is one person standing their ground without raising their voice to change the direction of someone else's entire future. If this story moved you, share it. Speak up. Teach your kids. Watch how you treat people, because rank may command power, but character commands change.